Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tash Teaches. I'm Tash, and in today's video I want to make a deep house track from scratch using Bitwig Studio. So without further ado, let's jump right in and get started. I'm going to open up a brand new project file, and the first thing I want to do is set the tempo to something that is a little bit more housey. So in this case I'm going to go for 123 beats per minute. There's something quite magical about that number. Now, I just want to find a kick drum, first and foremost. A lot of the time I start with drums. I know some people like to start with musical elements or whatever, but I find that the actual kick drum that I use informs the direction of the rest of the track. So I'm going to go to my one-shots folder, I'm going to go to sound content, and I'm going to find my kicks. And I don't want to just sit and scroll for ages. So I'm just going to scroll and try and find a kick. If it's not, okay, this will do. I'm just going to pick any old random one. This is usually my philosophical approach, is the fact that me just randomly scrolling and clicking one at best will probably yield just as good, if not better, and definitely more rapid results than me searching and searching. So I'm going to open up a MIDI clip. I like to do things in here, but we could also do things in the timeline. For now, I'm just going to do it here, which for anyone who is fresh to Bitwig, this is basically just the horizontal version of the classic Ableton session view. Now, one thing I've always found very weird about Bitwig is when you open a new MIDI clip, for some reason, oh, there we go. How very bizarre. Now it's decided to show C3, but usually what it does is it shows you C1 on the piano roll, which isn't really what we want. We want C3. So I'm just going to go back actually. Here's a little trick that I have is draw one note, copy and paste, and then copy and paste. And it's just a quick and easy approach. So let's take a little listen to this. I'm going to bring the old attack, or the release down. Straight away I can hear that I don't really like what's happening here. There's a bit too much of this like mids, and obviously we could go and find a different kick drum, but I would actually rather just tailor this because I do like this beginning clickiness. I just don't really like where it goes. So I'm going to bring a filter down until we get to something like that, and then I'm going to bring up an ADSR envelope, and I'm going to bring the attack all the way down to nothing, sustain down to nothing, and make the decay nice and short. We'll figure out the correct decay, but now I want to snap that filter up. So this is basically just a filter envelope, which gives us a little bit more control over when we get that high frequency coming through. So if I increase the D now, nice. Now we're able to get just that little snap more. Maybe we'll bring the filter up a tiny bit and the resonance down. Cool. I'm also going to bring the sustain down of the actual sound, bring the decay up. That'll do. Okay, first and foremost, I just want to load up some sort of delicious keys, chords. I don't really even know if we have any of these built into Ableton. Let's just go for Rhodes. I don't know how good this is going to sound, but I just want to first get some delicious chord going. I'm going to go for a D, and for any of you who are not necessarily music theory oriented, I want to do a D minor 9. And the way that I'm going to do that is, for a minor 9 chord, I'm going to do a gap of 2, a 3, a 2, and a 3. And what I mean by that is I have a D. If I want to make it a minor 9, I'm going to leave 2 gaps, draw a note. Then I'm going to leave 3 gaps, draw a note. Then I'm going to leave 2 gaps, draw a note. Then I'm going to leave 3 again. And that is a D minor 9. That would work exactly the same with any other chord. So let's just pretend actually we want to do an A sharp minor 9, 2, 3, 2, and a 3. There's our A sharp minor 9. I'm actually going to go back to the D, and let's have a little listen. I'm going to make this shorter, so I'm going to press my shortcut, which is left square bracket. I'm going to duplicate it out, and I'm going to just stretch this out, see if we can get a bit of rhythm going just with a single chord. Copy and paste that. Kind of nice. Now, just out of interest, I want to see what another chord could be. A chord that we could do as well would be maybe an A minor 9. And because the chord is exactly the same, all I have to do is just transpose it down. So let's listen to the 2 chords now. That's kind of nice as it is. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste these here. But I do just want to now, I'm going to press Shift D on this to duplicate the length. I'm going to save those. Oh, actually, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to copy paste that. I'm going to now press Shift D on here to duplicate the length, just so I've got these saved there, just in case. But now I want the actual chord progression. So let's take a listen again. I'm going to duplicate it again because I'm noticing that this could be an interesting way to have a bit more variation here. I'm going to take these notes on the second chord. Actually, no, I'm going to take this one. And we're going to see what happens if we have basically a transposition of the second chord the first time. So that's nice. It's exactly the same chord progression, but it almost feels like a 4-chord progression now. Lovely. Okay, so we've got our kick drum, we've got our Rhodes. Let's try and make a little bass line now. Now I want to use one of the new features that actually I can't use because of the fact that I'm not using the beta. Forget that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to say, okay, well, what are the notes in the D minor chord? We've got a D, F, and an A, and a C. So we'll do D, F, A, C, E. And I'm just going to duplicate this so that it happens all 16th notes. And if we were to press play, it's not necessarily saying anything because we haven't got anything on the channel, but you're going to quite like this little technique. I'm going to now duplicate this again, and I'm going to move these notes down to an A minor. Let's duplicate it again, and we could do the same old thing as we had with the chord there. So let's bring this up. And okay, so now what I want to do, highlight all of those, is I want to take some sort of instrument. Let's take a polymer, and I want to just make a really simple sound here. I'm going to go for like a sawtooth wave. Make sure that sub is off. And if I were to just press play now, it's going to be a bit excessive. Because I want to make a bass line, and that doesn't sound particularly bassy. My theory right now is I want to sort of generate a bass line, so I don't have to actually go in and figure out what the notes should be. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go here and I'm going to say every single one of these notes only has, say, a 33.3% chance of playing. So if I were to press play just like this, it's already going to sound kind of cool. But we're getting chords, and that's not what we want. We want a monophonic situation. So I'm going to take a little hack here and take a note grid. If we find that note grid, and the only thing I'm going to do with this is just make the voices mono. And that means whatever notes are coming in through here, it's only going to take the notes from here on mono. And you'll notice that now straight away we have what feels more like a bass line. But the notes are a little bit too high, so let's bring these down an octave. And I'm also just going to shape the sound a little bit more in here. Maybe now I'll bring it back up to its full volume. I'm going to bring the filter down. I'm going to bring the envelope down on some of these guys. Now also the amount of notes that I have in here is dictated by the percentage. So if we go to something like, say, 20% now. But because we've got multiple notes playing at the same time, we can actually bring this down pretty low. I'm going to say 11%, for example. Bring just a little bit more of this voice in by... Now what we might also want to do is highlight these because it could be kind of cool to have some eighth notes. So I'm going to duplicate this clip and I'm going to copy and paste this a couple of times. And I suppose I could have done that a little bit quicker, but I'm just going to do this. Shift that up. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I want to do a little experiment where we're going to highlight both of these notes and then we're going to go here to next action and we're going to say play random. The reason why I say play random is because that means it might play itself again, which could be pretty cool, and you'll see why in a second. Instead of playing through one whole time, which indicates that what's going to happen is that it has to play through the whole, what is this, 4 bars? Yeah, I don't want it to play through the whole 4 bars. I want it to play not that. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to bring down, instead of any bars, I'm going to bring it up to, say, 2/16 notes. Which means at max we will have 2/16 notes before it changes again, to which it could then play another 2/16 notes, but it might play an 8th note. And the key here as well is to make sure that Q, quantize to loop, is on. No, that's a lie. There's one here which should be note legato. Which one is it? Launch Q, play mode. There we go. Trigger, no, legato from clip. Yeah, and this is key because what this means is if I were to actually leave this off and you were to listen, now it's only ever playing the first. It's only playing the first chord, which is actually kind of cool, could work, but what we want is for it to scrub through the timeline and potentially be playing playing from either clip, but then jumping around. And for that we need to make it here play mode. We need to do legato from clip. There we go. So now in theory you'll see that it will be skipping back and forth, but overall the play through will go through the whole 4 bars, but which clip it plays is random. And now you'll see that it will have some 8th notes and some 16th notes. So let's see. I think that's kind of cool because now we have a bit more spaciousness and not just those higher and lower notes playing as it goes down the chord, but also then longer and shorter notes. What also might be kind of nice is to include perhaps just a little bit of sustain here so that if it does play a longer note. I'm also noticing that this synth needs to be in mono, so let's click this and bring the voices down to mono. We could also highlight both of the notes in here as well and just say, okay, well, we would like to have, let's say 33%, and we'll do 33%. Okay, cool. Now we've just got a possibility for a bit more notes. Actually, I kind of preferred it before. Okay, I'd also like to have a bit of sidechaining going on here. Now, I'm going to do this in a pretty simple way. I'm just going to add a modulator here. I'm going to take audio sidechain. I'm going to take the input of this to be the kick. I'm going to go for kick post. That means if I mute the kick, the sidechain will stop. And I'm also going to have a little look here. Where is the main frequency of this kick coming in at? Seems to be about there, but actually I just want to take the click of the kick, because that's a slightly shorter section. I'm going to bring the attack down, release, and now if I use the modulator out of this to bring down the overall volume of the instrument, not really hearing anything until I start to increase the gain. Now it's starting to feel a lot cooler. We probably also want to do the same on the chords, so let's see if we can actually just click copy, Command C, and I'm going to go to Rhodes, click here, Command V. It's already set up, so now all I have to do is do exactly the same thing here. Of course, we don't have to have the bassline continuously playing randomly, but for the sake of keeping it interesting while we're working on this, I find that to be quite a fun way. Afterwards, we can commit to something. But let's bring up a little bit of chorus on these Rhodes. I'm also actually feeling like maybe this should be the first one, and then this should be the second one. And obviously we've got the bass doing the opposite of that. Okay, now that we've got that, let's just put this here, chords, whatever. Now I want to do some sort of drums. So let's find out of the kicks holder, let's go to hats. And I'm just going to scroll down again. That will do. And here's another tiny little trick. I'm just going to copy and paste the MIDI clip from the kick, highlight all the notes, shift them to the right one. Might as well. It's doing the same pattern, so we'll say off hat closed. I'm going to duplicate this as well because I want to find an open hat. Almost. That'll do. Okay, we're going to put this in here and I'm going to bring up the attack. So we'll say open hat or off hat open. And let's just bring this in and mute it. With that release until it feels a little bit better. I'm also going to pan this a little bit. Pan the other one the other way. Cool, now let's find another hat. In fact, maybe we'll use this off hat closed, but I'm just going to take the same pattern again. I'm going to shift them back to the left and copy and paste across to every note. I'm going to press V to bring up the velocity, and I'm going to bring overall the velocity down. Then I'm going to bring the second one down really low and the fourth one down almost low. Maybe also bring this one down a touch, bring this one up a little bit. Then I'm going to highlight all of these notes and shift them across. If I were to play them now, we have the same hat playing twice, so it's going to sound a little bit unnecessary. But we can now do something rather cool, which is, again, to bring the chance down on here and say that maybe there's a 75% chance that any of these play. So let's go for 66. And I'm also going to hold down the Option key while I drag on this velocity, which is going to give it a bit of spread. which means that it won't necessarily always play at exactly the same velocity. It will play it somewhere within that range. Now I also want to bring the gain down of all of these guys, just so they're really nice and quiet. So we'll call this 16 hat. We could even 16 hat, even probably bring the hats up an octave, so these are just nice and small. Probably want to go into this open hi-hat, and I'm going to put a high pass on it. Alright, cool. Okay, that will do for now. I'm actually going to bring the panning a little bit back again. Let's find a clap. So let's take any old random clap, except that one. That will do. I'm going to drag it onto here. In case you haven't noticed what I'm doing there, I'm just dragging an empty sound onto here. That automatically puts it onto a sampler. I'm going to copy and paste the kick again, get rid of the first note and the third note. And let's put this in. So we've got our clap now. Bring down that open hat a bit. I'm actually enjoying the chord not going down now. I think that's something that we could bring back in after. I'm going to make a new clip here, and I'm suddenly hearing that we want some sort of string sound. I don't know if it's going to be this, maybe ambient strings. I've actually got a really nice sound. Let me see if I can drag this in right here. Evolving pads. I made a really nice pack here. These 3 pads are just delicious. And then what I'm going to do is just analyzing the audio to bring these in. They are pretty large. Let's just take this tappier pad. And what I want to do is just put the root in. In this case, I'm going to say that the root is just D. I'm going to copy and paste it onto all 3 of these channels, and let's take a quick listen with it just holding that note. I'm also going to make these really long. So you can now see that these are like, what, 256 bars long. These probably need to be up even a few more octaves, so let's put that D4, let's put this up to D3, maybe we'll do timeless pad to D4 and have a D3, what a crazy idea. Okay, let's listen to these. Really, really delicious pad texture sounds that I created. I'm actually just going to show you what these sound like if I play a chord. These are fucking nuts. I'll make a video specifically on creating pads like this for you, but check this out. So let's go. If you hold them down really long, you start to get these really nice bird sounds coming through. You ready? Oh, there's a mosquito in here. Really nice. Okay, cool. So let's also perhaps just take the... let's leave it like that for now. Let's see what happens if we just do a held note. I'm going to take a limiter for now, just give us a little bit of crunch here, go down to say minus 0.5. Now you guessed it, I'm going to put these in a group, and I'd actually want to take an EQ here, and I'm going to take our trusty audio sidechain, and let's just call these pads. On this EQ I'm going to add this sidechain, and I kind of want to just use like a broad EQ here. Just because I don't want to actually dip all of the pad, I just want to dip like the frequencies that are most interfering with stuff. So I think that might actually be sort of like here. One other thing could be kind of nice with this Rhodes, I'm actually just going to group this, and I'm going to see if there are any other Rhodes in a similar style. So I'm going to pull that up. We've got amped Rhodes here. Let's see what that sounds like. Cool. Let's duplicate it again. Mute this one. I'm going to press see what else we've got. We've got rusty Rhodes. Cool. I'm going to duplicate it again because we've got a 4th one here. I'm not sure what it is. Up and down the Rhodes. Okay, fun little thing here is I'm actually going to turn all of these off, and if I were to just press play with all of them, it's going to be too loud. But we are having a bit more interesting texture. I don't want all of them to play at the same time. I want there to be a sort of interesting cycling back and forth. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to right click and then do convert to instrument selector. At which point, now it's only playing the first one again, but I can actually skip through which one's playing. And a kind of cool thing that we can now do, let's turn off these pads for a second, is I can go here and change the mode from manual, which is what I was just doing there, clicking through them, and instead put this on, say, round robin. This means that because we have 5 notes in this chord, it's actually going to split one note on each one of these instruments, and because actually there's 5, one of them is going to play twice. But you'll now see that if I were to press or to solo this, you'll see that we're going to get a slightly more interesting sound, because it's like each one of these presets is playing a different note in the chord. I feel like this up and down the Rhodes is being a bit of an issue. I think we also want to do a similar thing here where we actually go in and say, no, you, Mr. Sidechain, are going to be working on the entirety of this. And maybe we can also do that with an EQ. Because again, the key here is not necessarily to make everything really, really duck, but it's just to duck the parts that are interfering with the others. So I'm actually going to highlight, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say reference, and then we're going to put bass. We'll do bass pre, and now it's actually showing in the purple what the bass is. So we can see around here, this is where we're ultimately going to need to do the most dipping. In fact, I'm going to do it like this. If I move my mouse to the side, it then creates a fishbone, which is a shelf. And I'm just going to actually just click and drag there. Move the frequency up to where it seemed to be interfering most. And now I'm going to use this to bring down the volume on that wishbone, which I do believe, if we go here, kick, post, if we bring the kick in, now, in theory, when we bring these chords back in, now we're basically getting the equivalent of what you get with track spacer. Okay, let's bring it in. Kind of cool. Now, I'm actually going to the beach pretty shortly, so I need to kind of wrap this up. I can definitely do a longer video of this. What is this? 23 minutes already. Okay, so one key thing I'm going to leave you here with, guys, is master channel. I'm going to open up the macros, or I'm going to open up the modulation section, and I'm going to open up macro here. Now, this macro, in fact, I usually do a macro. If you've known my channel for a while, you know I like to do a macro, but I'm actually going to do something a little different today. I'm going to go for XY. And I'm going to open this up. No, that's a lie. We're not going to use XY. We're going to use, which one is it? Is it going to be, let's see, We're going to go in here to interface, select 4, vector 4. We're going to go for vector 8. And in vector 8, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map. If we leave it in the middle, is what it is. Down here, I'm going to basically create an intro. And this intro will be, let's open up here. In this intro, I'm going to say, well, we don't have a clap. So I'm going to automate down the volume when it's down here. So now we've got no clap. I'm also going to automate down the open hat. I'm going to automate down the 16th note of the 16th note hi-hat a little bit. I'm also going to open up the closed instrument. I'm going to bring down the sustain and the decay a bit. Bring down the volume of that hat a bit as well. Now I'm also going to go to the bass, and I'm going to put here humanize. And I'm going to put that after the note grid, get rid of timing, get rid of velocity, because now what I can do with this is bring down the chance. So you'll see that at 50%, now we're adding to the chance that any of these guys play. So we're going to have even less notes. Kind of cool. Now let's go also to the chords here. What I want to do is probably also put on a high pass and a low pass. And I'm just going to roll these guys up. So now when it's down here, really nice and low, and then when we're here, we're going to roll off a little bit of the high end as well. I'm also going to make this bass smaller. So let's bring the volume down. I'm going to bring the decay and the sustain down, bring the amount of maybe roll off a little bit of the low end in that. Cool, so now we've got this spot. If I were to now bring this up, I have the ability to move things up. Now in this mid position, I'm going to leave it as is, because this is our kind of intro. This is our mid. Now let's do one up here that makes everything really big. So I'm going to turn this up, and I'm actually going to go in here and use this one to open up the filter on the kick a bit, open up the decay. I'm moving quick now because I said I've got to go and get the beach. I'm going to bring the volume up on this. Let's go back to the bass. Let's make it so that the bass opens up even more. A little bit of noise. Maybe even a bit of glide. Kind of cool. Now let's go to the chords. What could we do with this? Well, it could be kind of nice if we do a wishbone. Let's create a wishbone, actually. And we'll go here, high shelf. What if up here, this really boosts the high frequency? So it's like going a little excessive with that bass. Let's go here, let's just add a send. We've already got one. I'm going to add a reverb. I'm just going to do a big old reverb, and then let's also make on here that this sends the clap through to that reverb. So we'll click this, send it through. Maybe we also want to actually bring in these pads. Maybe let's have them nice and low. Maybe we'll have it so that they come in. We also want to now make the 16th note hi-hat turn up in volume. So it's like, maybe we'll also use this to increase the volume of the open hat a bit as well. And then also the open close. Really nice. I'm also actually just going to duplicate the bass instrument here, and I'm going to take this same sound, I'm just going to pitch it up, say 4, and go to sine, and I'm going to change note grid. Now I'm going to leave it just as it is, but what I want to do is make a couple of adjustments, because this can now be a sort of like melody. So let's say that this, which one is it? Yeah, this is our melody. I'm just going to delete that actually and do a polymer again, just so I don't have any of that automation. Let's go up a couple of octaves. Let's go up 8. Do something like this. I'm also going to do, say, a note counter here. I'm going to do 3. Again, apologies, I'm moving really fast now. Beach. Just adding some sort of interest to this. I'm also going to take a random, and I'm going to do note. Let's do hold rate of 0. I'm going to pan this strange and crazy. So now it's going to go like this. It's a little bit too much. I'm going to bring the amount down. But why don't we have it so that this melody isn't in at all, but it does start to come in as we go up here. And then also maybe we'll make it so that actually it's a little bit in at the mid. We'll have none of that in at the intro. And as it starts to get here, it also increases in decay and reverb. So let's check it out. We've got our intro vibe. Bring the input up a bit. I'm also going to map Q to the kick, so I could just do this. Are we ready to have the big fucking hurrah? Here we go. Now, of course, we can go back to the sort of intro vibe. And if we go this way again, it's going to bring us back to the mid. And let's also, just for good measure, create a breakdown one, where there's more pad. We'll bring the bass down. And this is our breakdown. In this breakdown, we're going to start to remove the open hat and maybe even the closed hat. We'll send the... We'll do something crazy with this. Do a little bit of that melody. Bring the clap down. Bring almost all of the drums out. Let's bring out a little bit of that low end. Maybe we can also put on the master channel some sort of reverb. Not that one. Fucking hell, stop it. There we go, reverb. Let's make it so that this actually brings in a touch of that mix on the master channel. Let's make this really roll off all of the low end in that bass. Now we can bring this back again. Okay, here we go. And of course we can make another little breakdown section here. And this is one of the things about so nice about this vector thing, is you can really like play between these sections. Super nice. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been how to just make a sort of deep house track from scratch in Bitwig Studio.